Mouse click. Ting. Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I invite you to share your thoughts, feelings, and the lessons you take from this in the comments below. Please like the video and subscribe so you never miss a story like this one. Now, let's begin. She smirked as she slid the divorce papers across the table, confident in her victory. Her eyes broadcast a single, cutting message. You are nothing without me. I signed my name in silence, but when the judge read my true net worth aloud, that smirk didn't just fade, it shattered. My name is Darius. I met Jasmine 6 years ago at a friend's birthday party. She entered the room not as a guest, but as an event, confident, smiling, dressed in a simple red dress that commanded attention without demanding it. I remember the immediate thought, she is way out of my league. And yet, somehow, she spoke to me first. She said I looked like someone who didn't belong there, and she meant it as a compliment. I laughed. She laughed. And that's how it all started. In the beginning, she was a dream, sweet, thoughtful. She would bring me lunch at work, surprise me with handwritten notes, and sit beside me for hours while I coded, insisting she didn't mind. I thought I had hit the jackpot. We moved in together within a year. She said she loved my focus, my ambition, even if I was just a software guy trying to build something from nothing. But then, the little things started. Not all at once, but over time, like a slow erosion. She'd joke that I wore the same shoes too often, adding, "One day, you'll make enough to take me to New York City." I'd laugh it off, not wanting to make a big deal out of it. Everyone jokes, right? Then came the comparisons. Her father was in finance. Her brother had just opened another restaurant in Miami. Her cousin owned a vineyard in California. I didn't come from money. My parents were school teachers. I'd paid for college through scholarships and side gigs. Jasmine would sometimes sigh and say, "You wouldn't understand. We grew up very differently." At first, it was just a statement of fact. Later, it felt like a judgment. We still had good moments. Movie nights, quiet vacations. We'd sit on the couch and plan our dream house. She wanted marble floors, a walk-in closet bigger than our apartment, and a pool shaped like a piano. I didn't care about all that. I just wanted to build something that mattered, and I wanted her there with me. The more I worked, the more she complained. She started saying I was married to my laptop. Then she started going out more with her friends. Nights turned into weekends. Then she started traveling without me, saying she needed space. The support I felt in the beginning was gone, replaced by eye rolls, heavy sighs, and a chilling silence. I kept telling myself it was temporary. I was still pouring 12-hour days into my app, believing that once it took off, she would come back around. She didn't. What she did instead, well, that's why you're here, isn't it? Because what came next was worse than I could have ever imagined, but it was also the beginning of something she never saw coming. The erosion of a person starts subtly. That's what makes it so hard to see. A small shift here, a slight change there, nothing obvious enough to call out. But by the time you realize you're lost in the fog, it's already too late. One night, she insisted I join her and some friends at a rooftop bar. I thought it was a chance for us to reconnect. I was wrong. She spent the evening glued to her phone, laughing with an old college roommate about a vacation they were planning. I sat there, sipping club soda, an outsider listening to conversations about hedge funds and luxury condos. When one of them finally asked me what I did, Jasmine leaned in before I could answer. He's still figuring it out, she said with a dismissive wave. Everyone laughed, and my stomach sank. I smiled because I didn't want to embarrass her. That was the first time I felt myself shrinking next to her. After that, it became a pattern. At dinners, she'd interrupt me mid-sentence. If I tried to talk about my work, she'd cut in with, "Let's not bore everyone with code stuff." Or worse, a sarcastic, "He's building some mystery app that's going to change the world someday." Then came the spending. Designer bags, new shoes, expensive candles that cost more than our monthly internet bill. Packages arrived daily. When I brought it up, she'd snap, "Don't act poor, Darius. It's embarrassing." I told her we needed to save. She just rolled her eyes and walked away. She began to isolate me. My best friend, Andre, used to drop by on weekends. One day, Jasmine asked, "Why does he need to be here again? Doesn't he have his own place?" So I stopped inviting him. When my sister wanted to visit, Jasmine said we were too busy. When I called my mom, she would sigh loud enough for me to hear from across the room. She never had to say, "Don't call them." She didn't need to. I just stopped. I started to feel like I was always in the wrong. She never yelled, never screamed. Her words were just sharp, like tiny needles. "Are you always this slow?" Wow, this is basic, Darius. I'd catch myself apologizing without even knowing what for. There was no obvious cruelty. That would have been easier to name. It was like trying to sleep with the sound of a dripping tap, tiny, constant, and slowly driving you insane. She would say things like, "You don't even know how lucky you are, do you?" And the scariest part? I started to believe her. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was the problem. That's the nature of emotional manipulation. It doesn't strike like lightning. It wraps around you slowly, like a fog, until you can no longer see your way out. And I didn't, not for a very long time. Her lawyer painted a masterpiece of martyrdom, detailing how she had funded the vacations, paid the bills, and carried the entire burden of our marriage while I chased unrealistic dreams. He walked the court through her bank records, statements meticulously arranged to suggest I had lived entirely off her generosity. "She is not asking for anything unreasonable, Your Honor," her lawyer concluded, glancing over his shoulder at me. "She is simply asking for a fair outcome." Jasmine turned her head, her eyes meeting mine for a fraction of a second. There it was again, that little smirk she wore like a crown. I said nothing. My lawyer, Danielle, said nothing. We let the fiction hang in the air. Then the judge, an older man with silver hair and a sharp, dry voice, leaned forward. He adjusted his glasses. "I have reviewed both sets of disclosures," he said, his voice cutting through the performance. "But I'm not seeing any mention of deferred assets, invested equity, or private holdings. Are those not present in this case?" Jasmine's lawyer looked momentarily confused. "Your Honor, to our knowledge, the respondent holds no significant financial interests. He has been financially dependent for the duration of the marriage." The judge tapped his pen against the file. "Mr. Carter, do you dispute this?" That's when Danielle stood. "Your Honor," she said, her voice calm and clear, "we submitted a supplemental financial disclosure packet this morning. It includes detailed documentation of Mr. Carter's business holdings, silent partnerships, and interests in three separate trust entities, all acquired legally during the marriage and verified by an independent auditor. The air in the courtroom changed. Jasmine turned slowly, her eyes locking onto mine. The color drained from her face. Her lawyer began fumbling with his papers, mumbling something about not having received it. The judge held up a hand. We will pause here. I will need time to review this. If this documentation checks out, and I assume it does, it dramatically alters the financial landscape of these proceedings. Jasmine's hands twitched in her lap. She had come dressed for victory, but the ground beneath her feet had just been pulled away. When the session resumed late that afternoon, the energy in the room had shifted entirely. Jasmine looked smaller in her seat. Her shoulders slumped. Her lawyer sat stiffly beside her, sweating through his collar. Danielle stood with quiet precision and handed a final packet to the clerk. No theatrics, no speeches, just numbers. Cold, clear, and devastating. The judge reviewed it in silence, his eyes scanning page after page. The room was so quiet you could hear the tick of the wall clock. Finally, he cleared his throat. What we have here, he began, is a comprehensive breakdown of the respondent's holdings. 3 functioning business entities, 2 corporate trust instruments, private licensing agreements, and intellectual property tied to an acquisition dated within the marriage. Jasmine blinked slowly, as if she hadn't heard correctly. Combined, the judge continued, these holdings place Mr. Carter's net worth at a figure considerably higher than what was originally represented. A low murmur rippled through the room. Jasmine sat frozen, her lips slightly parted, as if waiting for someone to declare it all a mistake. The judge raised a sheet of paper. In reviewing Mrs. Carter's sworn statement, I find clear contradictions. There is also evidence of misrepresentation concerning marital contributions and intent to conceal expenditures. Her lawyer stood to object, but the judge cut him off with a firm wave of his hand. I have heard enough. He looked directly at Jasmine. You painted your husband as a dependent, unambitious partner while seeking entitlement to assets you believed did not exist. Now that those assets have been revealed and legally protected outside of community property, you are entitled to none of them. Jasmine's expression finally cracked, her jaw tightened, her eyes glassy. The judge's final words were plain and sharp. Due to falsified claims and a lack of transparency, your petition for spousal support is denied. Your request for asset division is denied. This court finds no basis for further distribution. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, in front of everyone, stripped of the last illusion of control she thought she had. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. The silence said everything. She caught up to me in the courthouse parking lot. Her heels clicked unevenly on the pavement. For the first time in years, she looked unsure of herself. Darius, wait, she called out, breathless. Can we just talk? I stopped by my car, but didn't turn around. She stepped in front of me, her eyes wide, her voice trembling. I made mistakes. I know that now. But we were good once. Can't we try again? I looked at her then, really looked at her. The same woman who had smirked over divorce papers now stood shattered in designer clothes. No, I said. The word was not angry, just final. You didn't want a partner, Jasmine. You wanted power. But I never needed you to shine. Her lip trembled. She said nothing. I opened my car door, got in, and started the engine. She just stood there, her arms wrapped around herself as if to hold the pieces together. As I pulled away, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. She was a solitary figure in the fading light, a queen with no kingdom, no crowd, and no control. Just her, and nothing left. If this story resonated with you, please share your thoughts and lessons in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to join our community, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story.